Hi, welcome everyone. Feel free to toss your name and where you're joining from into the chat. We'll get started in a few minutes.
Yeah, I would love to know where you're calling in from. If you can pop your name and okay. Hi, Stan. Boulder, welcome.
Ooh,
Kathy from the Wharton School. Wow, I feel like, now I'm very stressed. Nicole from Cleveland. The reason why I'm like reaching over is I have the partially obscured view of my. Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we'd love for you to kind of put where you're calling in from. We've got a lot of East Coast people, Penn State, Queens College, Nebraska, Omaha, awesome, University of Texas. So I am suspecting that a lot of you actually have plenty of experience organizing startup competitions. Hold on, maybe we should put out that poll now.
Yeah, give me one
moment. And welcome everyone. Yeah, it's just like really amazing to see everybody from all these wonderful schools. UC San Francisco, Siena College. Hello. So I guess like this first poll presupposes that you actually already organize competitions. So if you right now are organizing competitions out of your entrepreneurship center, we'd love to hear how do you actually judge these competitions. And these competitions might have a live component or they might not have a live component, but what are you using right now? We're very curious to know how everybody else is doing it. Hey, Pamela, I'm very excited too. Now, webinar, it's kind of tough because I can't really see you guys, but very much would like for this to be an interactive experience. So please use the chat, use the Q&A. We're just gonna kind of wait a little bit longer. Oh, yeah, so Brandon. Oh, I'm so excited to see like such a lot of amazing organizations represented and people coming from all over the country. So welcome everyone. We have a poll up if you just joined us. We'd love if you're doing competitions right now. We would love to see how you are organizing the judging, because that's venture dash up. If you don't mind putting that in the poll so we have a record of it, that would be great. Nancy, also Brandon, you use Qualtrics surgery. Hopefully that's like Qualtrics survey, not Qualtrics surgery, but that would work too. Yeah.
Elaine, can you see the results as they're rolling in? I'm not sure.
No, you can see it. I cannot see it. But we'd love to kind of have you guys survey.
Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it up for another 10 seconds.
One-handed typing. Tacos are very important. One should always prioritize tacos over survey. Yeah.
All right. So I ended the survey for what we have right now, and the leading answer of what you're currently using is pen and paper, followed by Google Forms, Google Sheets, and some competition or judging platform.
Yeah. I think we've all done all of the above. Even if we're using a platform, we definitely have done all of the above. So, yeah.
All right, we can dive right into this. I'll do a quick intro, and then Elaine, I'll let you take it away with your slides. Welcome everybody to today's webinar, Start to Finish, How to Organize a Startup Pitch Competition, with Elaine Chen, and I'm also joined here by Carol Denning. This webinar is hosted by StartupTree, leading platform used by top universities and a great way to manage and grow your entrepreneurship program. So a recorded version of this webinar will be provided to everyone who's registered for the event, along with a copy of the slide deck. And at the end of this talk, we'll also have a live Q&A where you'll be able to raise your hand, come on stage, as well as add in questions into the chat and Q&A box all throughout the webinar. And My name is Hulda. I'm from StartupTree, and it's my pleasure to finally introduce our moderator for today, Carol, as well as our speaker, Elaine Chen. Elaine is the director of the Derby Entrepreneurship Center at Tufts University. Prior to joining Tufts, Elaine served as senior lecturer and entrepreneur in residence for over a decade at the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship, teaching entrepreneurship in startup, corporate, nonprofit, and government settings to students at all stages of their journeys. Elaine brings a wealth of experience, having served as an engineering and product management VP at 6 companies, including Rethink Robotics, Zeo, Zmote, and Sensible Technologies. As a thought leader, keynote speaker, and author, Elaine has been featured in Xconomy, TechCrunch, Huffington Post, Forbes, and Fortune. Her experience and tips of the trade are invaluable to any program looking to streamline their competition progress, and I'm honored to let her take it away.
Thank you, Hulda. That was a little too generous. So my name is Elaine Chen. I'm the director of the Derby Entrepreneurship Center at Tufts and also a professor of practice in entrepreneurship. My background is I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 6 startups and small companies, largely at the intersection of hardware and software. I've been teaching entrepreneurship for 11 years, first at MIT and now at Tufts. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Carol Denning, who really is the queen of startup competition. So I don't really hold a light to Carol. Most of the things that we do is organized by Carol. So Carol, please introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Denning. I'm the program administrator at the Derby Entrepreneurship Center. I've been fortunate to be working at the Entrepreneurship Center for 6 years now, planning a variety of events each academic year to get the entrepreneurial community engaged in entrepreneurship. I'm happy to be here and supporting Elaine and helping to share our experience with running events and competitions at Tufts.
Thank you, Carol. So I am going to share screen. So this is the format of today. I have a story to tell about one of our leading competitions, the Tufts 100K New Ventures competition. And you're going to use that story of how we did it last year as a foil to talk about how we think about startup competitions. I don't pretend to be the expert. We are not pretending to be expert. This is how we did it last year. And I hope that could become kind of the framework with which we can have conversation. Throughout, we would love for you to put any of your questions into the Q&A feature. So there's 2 places you could put questions, right? Please use the Q&A feature so other people can upvote your questions. And Carol will be manning the chat and the Q&A, and as questions come in, and she would either answer them on the fly or leave it to be answered live at a later date. So I'm just going to go 20 or 30 minutes and then open it up for Q&A. So I am going to share screen. Hulda, is this working? Okay, perfect. So just a quick introduction to Derby Entrepreneurship Center at Tufts. We actually belong to an organization called Tufts Gordon Institute, which sits underneath the School of Engineering. But we don't only serve one school. We actually serve all schools and colleges across the Tufts University community. And we also serve alumni and also community members who are friends of Tufts. Our mission is to help everybody who comes to us to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and skill set. And we believe that entrepreneurship is so much more than just startups. It's much, much more. It's a way of thinking, a way of working. And we aspire to bring this entrepreneurial mindset to everyone to help them succeed, whether they will end up getting a job or working in a nonprofit, in government, or working in a startup, starting a startup. Now, the way we do it is through both academics and co-curricular programs and activities, just like most other entrepreneurship centers. Our academic program is an undergraduate program. We have we administer 2 entrepreneurship minors. One is called the entrepreneurship minor, which is 20 years old. And then the other one is entrepreneurship for social impact minor, which is 1 year old. And we have 700 plus unique students take at least one course at the undergraduate level with us each year. On the co-curricular side, we do a lot of activities ranging from one-to-one coaching to workshops, to speaker events, to competitions, which we will talk about today. The reason why I wanted to give you that background is scale matters. So I used to work for MIT, where the Entrepreneurship Center is fairly mature. The Derby Entrepreneurship Center really became a center in 2018. So it's relatively nascent, and our student population is predominantly liberal arts students on the undergraduate side. And that also kind of gives you a sense of what kinds of things they care about. They care about social impact in healthcare and also general technology. So we're going to jump into this case study of the Tufts 100K, how we did it 2021. Of course, this is the year where nothing was happening in person. So we did everything remotely, just like probably most of you. And here's just the top level framing of what is this thing. So the Tufts 100K is the flagship spring pitch contest at Tufts. This is like, everybody may not know what is Derby Entrepreneurship Center, but everybody knows what is the 100K. And it's basically a 3-track competition with over 60 applications each year. And last year we had growth, we had 67 applicants. We have a general technology track, we have a social impact track, and we have a healthcare track. The competition is set up so that we do 2 rounds of live pitches. We have all of the applications come in, we screen them, and we pick teams to advance to semifinals, where they do a live pitch to semifinal judges. 3 tracks, right? And then half of those teams would advance to the finals, which is 3 tracks again. So as you can see, it's a lot of teams and a lot of tracks and a lot of pitches to organize. Each team gets to present with a 5-minute pitch, and in 2021, it was all over Zoom, but we wanted to make it live and not recorded for the following reason. We wanted to have an element of risk. We want the students to kind of feel a little bit unbalanced, and a lot of times that actually brings out the best in them. How much money? It's actually a little less than 100K in cash. Each track, we have $25,000 of prize money per track, and then we have 2 more. Oh, actually, that's a typo. It's 10K and 10K. So it's 95K cash. We have 2 additional prizes that's enlisted alongside the main competition, and we have a lot more in-kind services that we offer on the side, including rent credit. This is a screenshot of the finals, and this was after months and months of work. And really, the person behind the whole thing is really Carol. I was, basically assisting in the whole process, but mainly Carol ran the show. So many thanks to Carol for doing so much work. It was so much work. Let me say it again, so much work, so many people, so many students, a lot of work. So why do we do it? And this is very, very important. When we think about a pitch contest, it's really important to know why are you doing it. And we are doing it because it is part of a flow. It's not a standalone thing, even though everybody may not know everything we do. We are here to educate. We're not here to necessarily build startups or give money. The giving of the money and the building of the startup is a side effect of us here educating and teaching. And this is the shape of our year. In the fall, our theme is innovation. We want students to come in that don't actually know how to do anything. We don't need them to know what they are passionate about. We don't need them to have a venture idea at all. They can just come. And we organize a very entry-level competition called Ideas Competition, which is very accessible and welcoming to all. And that's fall. And that's the top of funnel. And there's a large number of students who are in that bucket, just experimenting with innovation and entrepreneurship. In spring, our theme is entrepreneurship. Now we're a little bit more serious. We're kind of working with teams who are already building a venture. And that's where the 100K competition sits. And it's pretty much the organizing thing in spring, where we funnel all the venture builders into this competition, and we give them concentrated workshops and coaching to help them advance their progress. And again, we give them money, we help them get on stage, they get some fame and glory, but our purpose organizationally is helping them learn, helping them acquire the entrepreneurial method. So that's really why we're doing this competition. And then in the summer, our theme is acceleration. We have a summer accelerator. So a lot of the teams that end up either being semi-finalists or finalists in the 100K end up in our summer accelerator. So we're gonna go and look at 5 things inside our playbook. Yeah, we make playbooks for all of the programs that we do, and we're gonna look at planning. We're gonna look at awareness generation. How do we run the application process, screening and judging, and also how do we run the live virtual event, which is really special. So, so Cynthia, we'll address your question at the end. So planning. So first team, it's always important to start with who is on the bus organizing this thing. And in 2021, it was Carol leading the charge, me in supporting role, and then we have 3 student coordinators helping. And that's like before you do anything, that's the first thing. Make sure we know who is organizing it and how are we working together. And then we also need to work on budget, timeline, IT systems, like basics, the basic design of the program, we need to kind of get in place first. And then we get to wrangle volunteers. This is really a big job because generally, you know, we have a very, very helpful alumni base from which we draw most of our volunteers. What are we using volunteers for? We have workshop instructors. We have a lot of one-on-one coaching. We have pitch practice. We need screeners to read all the applications. We need semi-final judges. We need final judges. And again, we have 3 tracks. So when other people do it once, we do it 3 times. So literally we're reaching out to like 100 people to yield about 50 people all in when we finish counting all the people. So it's a lot of volunteers, and that's just how our highly leveraged staffing model works. Preparing the application. So we right now are proud customers of StartupTree, and StartupTree is actually co-founded by Tufts alumna Teresa Kim. So we're very, very proud to be customers. So we're now using StartupTree, but we do not start by typing into StartupTree. We start with defining the rubric, and the rubric starts from defining the why of the competition. So again, it's very important to know why are we doing the competition. We're here to educate, and who's coming in. Our entrepreneurs tend to be a little bit more early stage than, for example, if you're at Stanford, your entrepreneurs might be very advanced, and ours are a little earlier. So knowing that, we would define the rubric to match where our entrepreneurs are and where they need to go. And we define the rubric first, and then we write the application questions so that there's a way for students to be judged based on whatever it is that they write into the application. Cannot stress this enough. The rubric and the application need to be thought of side by side. And then once we write all the questions of the applications, then that goes 2 places. One, it goes to the website so students can download it and read the application questions ahead of time. And 2, we can take the application questions and cut and paste it into StartupTree. And that basically is our workflow, and we always work backwards on that. Now, there's one pro tip, which is to make an event microsite. And this was just a lifesaver. Early on in the pandemic, we realized that we don't have a physical presence. We didn't really get the same benefit of physical signage. So we needed to have some way of communicating with students. So we ended up making this microsite that has everything anybody needs to know about the competition. And it had a couple of great effects. So first of all, people didn't really need to email us as much to ask questions. And secondly, if they forget something, they come to our info session, they forget something, they can always look it up and they can never get lost. So you can have a look at our microsite if you like, go.tufts.edu/100K. And most of the content you see is from last year, obviously, because we haven't run it for the following year yet. So, if you have any questions, by the way, just kind of, I see that Carol has been answering them along the way, so thank you. Just type it into the Q&A. So let's talk about awareness generation. So we've got this wonderful competition. We aim to educate, and we also give away modest amounts of money. Well, they need to know that is happening, and they need to know what are the deadlines and everything. And all I can say is awareness generation for even a competition everybody knows about is a struggle. So last year was a struggle because nobody was walking around campus the same way and there wasn't the same traffic flow. So we just didn't do physical signage at all. This year, we're finding that people are on campus, they're walking about and the signage comes back, but the social channels changed. So last year we literally had a list of 64 places we were trying to post or, connecting with student teams and trying to get everybody to help us get the word out. And this year we're finding that they're all in different places. So they used to be on the Facebook pages. Now some of them are on Discord servers. Everybody's on Instagram. Some are on Slack. Nobody opens emails, and it changes. It changes every year. So I think that, in terms of awareness generation, marketing on campus is just like any startups marketing a new offering or whatever. When you have to acquire new customers, you gotta kind of go with the flow and understand where are the people now and chase them where they are in their watering holes. So we're just trying to be very adaptable and talk to students all the time to figure out where they are. One fun thing was Carol and I decided to make cookies that had the logo, and that was a big hit because they tasted good and they were not terribly healthy, but they're really cute. So the other thing that's a pro tip in terms of marketing is put the money amount on the signage. And this is a hypothesis. We hypothesize if you put money up there, even people who may not necessarily pay attention would now perk up. It's too soon to tell because this is the first sign we've made in the last 2 years. And this is our entry-level competition. We'll see whether they come if we fund it. Okay, so now we've got some awareness. We've got some people getting ready to apply. How do we actually run the application process? So first off, we ran info sessions and we make sure to organize 2 info sessions on 2 different kinds of days. So Monday and Tuesday, students have different class schedules and then also different times in order to make it more possible for people to attend. And one thing we found, Tufts University is unique in that our campuses are very spread out. We have a Boston campus, we have a Grafton campus, we have a Medford campus. So people are all over the map. Making the info sessions over Zoom actually really, really helped because everybody can come and we don't have to drive anywhere to try to kind of do info sessions in person in the way that we used to do them before. And having the microsite again is really, really important, saves so much time. And then we want to help the teams prepare. And again, it's very contextual, right? So your student base may be very, very advanced and they may not need as much preparation help. Maybe they all only really need some drama coaching, presence, how to conduct yourself on stage. Ours need a little bit more. Sometimes they need help finding teammates. So we do pitch to match events where people can pitch their ideas and find teammates, and people will need to join teams can pitch to, pitch their skills and share what they want to work on. And we try to do some matchmaking there that way. Some of them might not have taken an entrepreneurship course. For example, we had students from, for example, the dental school or the medical school, and they don't have time to take an entrepreneurship class because they're usually seeing patients when we're doing other stuff. So we provide a suite of coordinated workshops that cover the basics of venture creation in roughly the same story arc as an introduction to entrepreneurship or a capital entrepreneurship course, so that if you've never taken an entrepreneurship course and you're working on a venture right now, you still have a way of kind of following the process and using some best practices, techniques in order to build your venture idea. We have unlimited one-on-one coaching, and people can just kind of click a Calendly link to book time. And we have a lot of opportunity for pitch practice and dry runs. And basically, our philosophy is that we want everybody who goes on that stage, whether it's real or virtual, to have a great experience and to feel really wonderful about the pitch that they're about to give and the pitch that they've given. So we want to make sure that that's what we focus on to help them actually really give the best pitch possible. So along the way, we got to know whether or not people are applying. Are they actually aware of it? Are they engaging year over year? Are we seeing sustained interest? So some ways of gauging interest is looking at whether or not people are coming to our workshops. And that can be hit or miss, because if you hit a midterm week and everybody's doing midterms on the undergrad, there's going to be 0 undergraduate students. So it comes and it goes. Are people booking one-to-one coaching sessions? And that's actually really, really good indicator, because typically we open the applications and that first week, no one comes, 1 or 2 people might come. The next week, a few more. And then as the deadline approaches, we get like a gazillion bookings. And that's how we know we're going to have a good year, because there's a lot of people wanting help kind of organizing their applications. With something like StartupTree, we can go in the back end into the administrative panel and look at the dashboard to see, did anybody look at our application? We put it out there. There's an apply button. Are people clicking? Are people looking at it? So StartupTree and other platforms like that gives you the ability to see who's looking at it, who's started an application, who's actually hit that submit button and are done. And astonishingly, we have 1 completed application for our ideas competition that's not even due for another week and a half. So that gives you kind of a little bit of a pulse. And then one fun fact, and I haven't found any exception to this yet in all of my 11 years doing this stuff. Most of the applications come in within 4 hours of the deadline, and a lot of them come in within the last 5 minutes of the deadline. Whatever the deadline is, it almost doesn't matter if it's 5 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, whatever the deadline is, most of the application comes in within 5 minutes of that, and sometimes it's a little bit after the deadline. So another pro tip is just make sure that you're relatively less stringent about cutting off access. Because if you say, well, the deadline is midnight and you cut off access, then for sure, 12:05, you're going to get some dings on your phone saying somebody's frantically trying to submit, but they cannot because the portal has closed. So that's very, like, I haven't seen any exceptions to the last minute aspect of it. Okay, so now you've got applications in the system, and now we've got to kind of decide who's moving forward. So there's screeners and there's judges, and our approach is to over-communicate, because people are volunteering their time, and we're asking for quite a lot of time, especially for screeners. So we might get a relatively large pool of screeners, and we're asking each person to read 10 or 20 applications. And if you're conscientious about screening, that takes quite a bit of time. So they're not going to remember from one meeting what you told them about how to screen. So we try to make sure everything is in writing. We send them emails, and we send them some more emails. And we make sure that they understand what is the rubric. Now, this is very, very important, especially when our mission is educational. We're not picking winning horses. We're not venture capitalists. We're picking teams who work really hard on ventures that actually follow the process, right? So that's a lot different from what many judges might have been used to doing, which is pick investable ventures. So if the objective of the competition really is to educate and to make sure that they learn how to think about new venture creation the correct way, or like according to some framework, then it's paramount that the judges get with the program. They understand that I'm not going to pick the ones that I like because I like that sector. I'm not going to pick the ones that I like because I think that this particular technology trend is going gangbusters. I'm not picking investable ideas. I'm picking winners based on the rubric, because that is the thing that calibrates how the teams are going to present and how the judges are going to judge. Quite a bit of chat. Yeah, so deadline looming. We try to make sure that no one can ever say, I didn't know yesterday was the deadline. I just heard about it. So we send out a lot of reminders, and typically we do a wave it at the beginning, and we say applications are open. And then with about a week to go, we say 1 week left, just get going. Here's the coaching link, get some help. And then a couple of days before, we're like, deadline is here. Winter is coming. Submit it already, right? And then the deadline comes and goes. And typically, if we do this, with a cadence, then we don't run into the problem of people claiming that they do not know that the deadline just came and went. Yeah. So now, how do we pick? So that's all the mechanics of preparing to screen and preparing to pick teams to win. But how do we actually facilitate that? And this is possibly controversial, and I would very much like to see how other people do it. So I've personally judged, like, I cannot count how many things I've judged, either hackathons or pitch contests or boot camps or class final presentations, everything. And generally, it comes down to two camps of, how do we actually pick? One camp of people say, we're going to make it fair, so everything is going to be on a Likert scale. Grade everyone on a scale of 1 to 5, and then we're going to go and use math to calculate the winner based on who got the most points. A second camp says, yes, and that's great, except I can't calibrate across people because everybody is going to use a different scale. So that's not going to be the most fair way. And also numbers are sterile. We need color on top of it. So this other camp would look at judging in a much more holistic way. And I fall into the second camp. So I do still use Likert scales. We find, we have like three, we have screeners. Actually, we have many more than 3 to 5 screeners for 3 tracks. But here's the typical process we go through. We have the screeners get assigned X number of applications to read. For each application, they are looking at the rubric. They look at the rubric, and then they just grade it on the rubric or not, up to them. We don't really ask them for how they graded on the rubric, but we do ask them to look at the whole population of applications that they saw and mark each one yes, no, discuss. So yes, no, discuss. So, if I'm reading, I say, I see a team that I really like, and I say, yes, I think this team should advance. Or I might see a team that I think, well, this is good in some ways, but bad in some other ways. Is kind of really controversial. I think we should talk about this. That would be a discuss. So we make sure that at least 2 people would read each application, because sometimes you have so many that everybody can't read like 20 or 30. That's not a reasonable ask. So we would just make sure that we have enough overlap. And then we tally it up and we look at which teams got unanimous yes, which teams got unanimous no's, and which teams were either a mixed bag or they got a lot of discuss. So, generally we end up with more teams in the discuss bucket just because people typically have different judgment calls. And it's, and there are some teams that are definitely all yeses and all no's. And an example of a no team would be they actually did not complete the application and just did NA on, we've seen all kinds of really funky incomplete applications. So if it's an incomplete application or the person is actually not eligible, then we just know that. And then we get all the people who are screening each track together in the Zoom room, and then we talk about all of the teams. And we start with the unanimous no's to say, are those really off the island? Okay. And then we talk about the unanimous yes. Do we all feel really good about these staying here? Okay. And if we've got some room left, then we talk about the discuss. And then we go through the whole list one more time. And just to make sure we don't forget any team, and we just go through and end up with the 10 or 5, 10 teams that say, are we good with these 10? Does anybody want to advocate for the no's or discuss? And we just make sure everybody gets their voice heard. And at the end, we yield 10 teams to advance to semifinals from the screening round. When it gets to the live pitch, it's a produced event and it's fairly complicated to run, which I will talk about in a minute. Just kind of watching the time here. So when we're doing live judging, again, do you do numeric or do you discuss? And I do numeric and discuss. So each judge would get their own Google form. So we use Google form and Google spreadsheet, which is a step up from using whiteboards, which I used to use. So each judge would have 5 minutes to listen to the pitch and then 5 minutes to do Q&A. And then they have 1 minute to complete their Likert scale. There's according to the rubric, and then there's a place for them to type any notes. And then when everybody is gone, we break and we send all the applicants somewhere to network. We would take all the judges to a private other location and we sit them down and we tally it all up and we do a preliminary score. So, in the table at the bottom, you can see we have the average score across all of the Likert scale questions, and then we have a preliminary rank based on how the scores came out that first time around. And then we talk about them, and do we really feel like the first is the first and the last is the last? And a lot of times we flip, because a lot of times the order in which people present actually affects the score, and that's kind of grossly unfair to the first team or the last team. So we just make sure that we give the judges a place where they could be, have the space to be a little bit quiet in their head and reflect on whether or not they were calibrated when they saw that very first team. And that's how come we oftentimes see some teams flip, because they're like, that's right. I was judging them really harshly because that was the first team I saw. And then I just realized I was miscalibrated, or the other way around. So judging. So so this is why it's so much work. We have to have people facilitate 3 rooms worth of judges. And these judges are very, very experienced people. They're very opinionated. So it takes quite a bit of organizing. Live virtual events. This was the finals, and this was all the rooms that we had to organize in both semifinals and finals, because I think that having 3 tracks just means that we make stuff complicated for ourselves. We start together in the main stage kickoff, and we typically have our President Monaco come and give some opening remarks. We have our dean, we have the executive director of Tufts Institute. So everybody makes their opening remarks, and then we give instructions, and then off you go into the tracks. Now, we still have to have someone on main stage to redirect traffic, because people always end up in the main stage coming in late, and then they have to be sent to wherever. And then, so all the tracks would go, and then we would have the judges deliberate. And what are people going to do while we deliberate? So we send them off to do networking. So consequently, we always need 7 rooms, and in real life, we would need 7 physical rooms and 7 sets of snacks. And in Zoom University land, we needed 7 Zoom rooms. And that means 7 human beings have to make 7 links, because Zoom doesn't let you set up 2 at once. So it's just a massive amount of stuff. So once more, we're feeling having a landing page was magic. So in the microsite, we always make sure we have a landing page where you can find your way around. And that was just lifesaver, because we could always just give the short link to the landing page and make sure people know where to go. So the question is, what are we going to do next year? And there are pros and cons to doing it virtually. The pro is last year, because our competition is open to 5 years worth of alumni, you're eligible up to 5 years after you graduate. Making it virtual means everybody can apply. And our social impact track winner actually applied and pitched from Kenya. And he had a venture where he was growing black fly larvae to create, affordable chicken feed for smallholder farmers in Kenya. Somebody like that would not have been able to fly all this way to present live. So tentatively, we're planning for virtual semifinals and finals and also live. But then we also realize that people are hungry for in person. So we're thinking we can organize kind of a celebration event 1 week after we finish the finals, so that whoever is actually able to come to Medford can come in person. It's a lot of work, and this is only some of it. We made this flow chart so the judges and the screeners know what prep went into it, and it doesn't even capture half the work. But when we get to the end and the teams win, this is Dasha, and she won second place, right? Carol, Dasha was second place in healthcare track. It was just an amazing feeling to see the teams make it all the way to the end, and whether they win or lose, they went through that and they had that experience and they now know how to pitch. That was a wonderful feeling for them, and it is totally worth all that work for us. So yeah, so just to wrap up, always know why the competition is being held. And for us, we have two competitions that we do, and we know exactly where in the ecosystem and the pipeline they are and why are we doing that. My process is not necessarily going to work for you. So I think that you always need to look at your student base and where everything is and make your own process and make it work. And last but not least, absolutely leverage technology. So we haven't actually used StartupTree until now. This is our first year using StartupTree, and we're very excited to explore all the feature set that can help us make both managing the application and judging more seamless and less complicated. Yeah, and with that, that's a wrap. I'm going to stop share now and have a look at, oh, please show the flow chart again. Okay, so Tom, give me 2 seconds. So flow chart. Okay, it looks really complicated, and it's mainly just to say we did a lot of work. So, okay, so cool. So yeah, so 3 questions. So let me just scroll back to see comments in the chat. So I see Cynthia asks, I am working on a small minority summit. Do we have speakers that could present on the topic via Zoom? Yes, we can kind of connect offline. Next week is actually Women Entrepreneur Week, and at Tufts Derby Entrepreneurship Center, we are doing a series of women entrepreneurship events. And I actually just posted that. On LinkedIn. So I think that in general, it's good to find speakers who are in your own ecosystem. So in my case, we have a mixture of Tufts alumni who are speaking, and also people that I know from outside. Okay, so how do I coordinate and staff unlimited one-to-one coaching? So we oversource volunteers. Last year, we did not have an entrepreneur in residence in house. So I reached out to our faculty, Carol reached out to a lot of alumni, and we got a whole bunch of people to create a lot of availability to meet with people. Yep. So I think that the other thing is not everyone is going to take you up on a one-to-one coaching, because some people know everything. And to be honest, if the student team knows everything, then I think they should just go ahead and pitch, because they know everything and they will either find that they're right or the other right. So yeah, over what period of time does 100K? So we open applications in February, right, Carol? Applications are open in February, and then we prepare teams, we teach them how to pitch, we do pitch practice, and then the semifinals is live in March. And typically the live finals is in April. So in general, we see the biggest amount of improvement from the 1st of March to the semifinals, because there are some teams that have a lot of experience of public speaking and some of them don't. And we do our best job to teach them the art of the pitch. It's content, it's delivery, it's storytelling, and we do workshops and we do one-to-one coaching. The 3 tracks are general technology, social impact, and healthcare. And again, if you go to go.tufts.edu/100K, you can see the tracks from each year. We stay with the same tracks with both competitions. So Greg, I'd love to kind of connect offline to see how you use it. We can use all mentorship. Okay. Cool. All right. Are there other questions? I see Carol has actually answered a lot of questions along the way, so thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Brandon. Anybody have any kind of thoughts, comments, pro tips? So what Holden and I were talking about is, wouldn't it be great if this was, if we could see each other and we could share pro tips? This is a great hive mind, like 49 people, that's a great hive mind. So Holden has created a lead form for people to sign up. Chris, I will take that in a minute. So to sign up to kind of just connect and form a community, because I always feel like I want to have a bunch of people I can just pop a question to. How do you do X? And I would very, very much love to be part of the community. So please do fill out the interest form that Holden just put out. Thank you very much. How do we thank our volunteers? In the olden days, we would feed them. Well, now we don't feed them. We sometimes send them swag. I think this past year has been tough. We just end up thanking them verbally and also via email, but we just haven't kind of shipped so much stuff around. How many audience viewers do we have for the final pitch day? More or less than, so that's a question for you, Carol, because I remember we were close to 200 in the main session, and I don't know the count for each track. Carol?
I would say that the attendance is slightly higher now that it's virtual. Attendance is higher, and allows people to join at different times of the day very easily from home. So I'd say we've increased engagement.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to see what would happen this year, because Zoom fatigue is a real thing. However, as we discussed, we were able to democratize access. We got judges who don't live here who would never judge. Guest speakers the same. So Nicole asked, have we considered changing or rotating the themes through the years? In our case, they have been stable for the following reason. If you look at what Tufts University is known for, what we are good at as a university, and this is above and beyond Derby Entrepreneurship Center, we are good at social impact. We have the Fletcher School for International Law and Diplomacy, and we have the Tisch College for Civic Studies. And these two combined together with the public health focus of the Friedman School gives us a lot of students who are very up and up on social impact. That's why we have an entrepreneurship for social impact minor, and that's one of our special strengths as a university. So there will always be a social impact track, because there's such a lot of depth of knowledge and also student interest. Healthcare is another reason. Tufts has 4 healthcare schools. We have a medical school, we have a dental school, we have the Cummings School for veterinary medicine, and we have the Friedman School for food and nutrition policy. So, with that collection of professional students, again, we just have a very strong core, a lot of interest. And also we have we're a tier 1 research university with a lot of 65% of our research is in biomedical engineering. So we end up having a lot of biotech ventures come out, tough tech ventures. So those tend to be fairly stable. Okay, so John asks, are the Jumbo Cafes the entrepreneurship training modules? And if yes, who teaches them? Oh, great question. Carol, do you mind, do you mind putting a link for our Jumbo Cafe into the chat, please? So the Jumbo Cafes are our hack to teach people outside the classroom, and they are typically taught by people who we have some experience with. So for example, in the fall, it's Innovating for Impact. I taught 2 of them. I'm actually doing one tomorrow. So please come sign up. We have a great Black female entrepreneur joining me for that. We try to make sure the workshops are taught by people who know how to teach a workshop interactively. So we teach very much the same way we teach in the classroom, very interactive. We make sure that there's time to kind of absorb the frameworks and it's not talking at people. And then we also have a different kind of event. The fireside chats are just you're sitting back and listening to stories. How can you try clicking the arrow on the right? Oh, okay. So, Cynthia asked, they're trying to host a pitch for entrepreneurs. How might we? So I think, when you are piloting something, I think less is more. So if it's the first time you're doing a competition, I think you might want to run it once to see if you need tracks. We need tracks only because we have 11 schools and colleges and such diversity in interest. I come from MIT, and the MIT 100K, they actually give a 100K check, so more money, and it's a student run, so it's a student run organization. So that's a little bit different, but they don't have tracks. They don't have tracks. They just have one competition and 8 finalists, and whoever wins, wins. So not everybody needs tracks. We need tracks just because our students come in with very different interests, and we want to respect that. So again, make your own process, make your own process that actually makes sense for your student base. Where does the funding come from? So great question. So our funding, just like any nonprofit, comes from a combination of endowment income, current use gifts, transfers from other schools, and earn income from programs that generate surplus. So top line, that pretty much is the same for any nonprofit. Specific to the money that we give away in competitions, we have one track that is endowed by a generous family foundation, and the other 2 tracks we just raise the money every year, and that's just raising for current use. And for example, at MIT, the 100K committee, every year they go out and raise the money that they give away that year. So I think it's not an uncommon situation where people raise current use funding for a pitch contest every year. Now, sitting where Carol and I said we would love to have everything endowed so that we don't have to raise, and we just raised for net new programming. We're working toward that. The 404, Huda.
Hi, yes, for the most part, I'm seeing anyone who's sending us questions about how the submission's not working. I do see Stephanie's survey has been submitted. Greg, I will get back to you, and we'll figure it out in the chat. But don't worry, I'll send out the link again also after.
Yes. Yeah. So we very much would like to form a hive mind. I always, like every day, I want to ask someone, how do you do X? So it would be great if we can start that, and StartupTree can be organizing this. Are we willing to share the questions you? Oh yes, it's actually on our website. So this is the magic of website. Okay, so our website is not pretty. So forgive us for having a not pretty website, but everything you need to know is here. So if you go to our website, this is the landing page, and you just scroll down on the right-hand side. It says judging rubric for all stages, and we just publish it. So there's no one's going to argue with any of us by saying, well, I was judged unfairly because I think my judge wasn't judging the same way that I was screened. And it's like, you can't say that, right? It's right there. It's like, you can read it, and you can cut and paste it into anything. So again, the whole point of the microsite is it saves us work and it gives the students a more logical user experience. Do we have other questions? So I'd love to ask, for those of you who have done a lot of competitions, what's one word of advice you have for all of us who run competitions? Do we share the score? We do not, because very much a personal thing. I personally think numeric scores on entrepreneurship is subject to calibration errors because everybody is going to have some different way of scoring. And I get people who use 1 to 5, and I get people who use 4 to 5 for range. So yeah, so I don't. We do share the verbatims. We try to clean them up. So that's another pro tip. If you're going to share notes from judges, tell the judges that they need to be nice, because otherwise they might write some rude things into the comments and then it's more work. Promote, promote, promote. I love that, especially the arts and science program. We have 70% liberal arts in my introduction to entrepreneurship class right now. That's absolutely true. And I really think that entrepreneurship is a team sport that is best taken with a diverse team. Absolutely promote. Other pro tips? Other pro tips? Yeah, thank you for coming, Greg. So if there's no more pro tips, I guess that's a wrap. Hold up.
Thank you so much, Elaine and Carol, both of you, for being here. I think this has been a highly valuable webinar for everyone here. I've learned so much just from listening to you. I'll be sharing the recording as well as the survey and the slide deck with everyone who's registered for the event. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you for coming. Have a great day. Bye.